Well, hello and welcome to this video where I'm going to explain to you how Ellie and I started the Nyctophilia shop, our own physical Gothic shop. Yeah, what steps we took, what we had to do, and how that worked out for us. In my last talking video where I explained where I'd been absent from YouTube for more than 2 years, I asked you if you wanted to see this or listen to this. Here we go. During one of the lockdowns, I was rather bored, so I wrote a really long text about how we started it all, our origin story, if you will. So I had it printed with a lot of pictures accompanying the text and made into a little book that is currently laying in our shop for our visitors and guests, customers to look at. But as many of you can't step by in person to see it, I thought I'd bring it into the internet and make it into a little video. So here you go. So I'm going to read this to you, so I'm going to look at my screen a lot because it's a really long text and I haven't got it memorized. Hamburg, Germany. It was the summer of 2018. We were sitting in the Barcelona Wandsbekmarkt. That was almost all current Nyctophilia staff except Christian and a few other close friends. At that time, Ellie and Nana were both working in another shop directly across the street from where we were sitting, where Björn and I had also been employed in the past. So that was basically where we all knew each other from. At the time, I was working my first real full-time job after university as a community manager in an online marketing agency, which I was actually pretty happy with. I liked that job. The team was really sweet, but in the agency I worked for a lot of different brands, customers of the agency that I had very little control over and no choice for who I was working. In the back of my mind formed the wish to work with cooler clients and the desire to fully stand behind what I was doing and what I, as the one speaking to users on social media all day, was representing to the outside world. I wanted something of my own. I never got along well with authority and working in hierarchy anyway. I like to discuss things and not being told what to do. It all seemed to boil down to the fact that I would become self-employed on the long run. I didn't know exactly what I was going to do at that point though. Something with social media, I thought. I should briefly add that, as you might already know, my boyfriend Marius and I had planned a 6-month trip around the world for the first half of 2019, just like I said in the other video, and you can also see all the vlogs on this channel, so you probably know, but I'm just, repeating it. So I had to leave the agency at the end of 2018 anyway, because we're starting our travels in January. So we sat together with a few cocktails that summer night and were once again vigorously venting about the working conditions in the aforementioned other shop. I do not want to go into detail here, that would certainly be very unprofessional, so we will leave it at that. Working in a subculture or scene store had always had its advantages, which we all enjoyed very much. For example, we met a lot of cool people, colleagues and customers, some of whom are still good friends with. But Nana and Ellie definitely wanted to leave their jobs. But where to? The idea of opening our own store was something we actually said in a drinking mood long before, but now it suddenly became serious. We all already had professional experience in retail and also specifically in the alternative scene. I would take care of the marketing. We're going to open our own Gothic shop. I really mean it. Or something like that, I said. I'm serious too, said Ellie. The others may not have known at the time if this was a serious ambition or not, but Ellie and I were sure that we had what it took. As a career changer in retail, Ellie knew that after 4.5 years of work experience, she could take an exam at the Chamber of Commerce to finally call herself a retail clerk. Like officially. So that was her next goal then. After that, we needed a business plan. Around June 2019, when Marius and I got back from our world trip, it would then go into the decisive phase. Until then, it was a lot of planning. So actually, we can trace it all back to that evening in the summer of 2018, where we decided to really do this. Fast forward to the winter of the same year. Ellie, Björn and I are sitting in Ellie's living room at home. That was our headquarters before we had a shop space. We each have a laptop on our laps and are in deep concentration mode. Scattered around the room are slips of paper with notes, lists, forms on the coffee table, mugs and cookies. On Ellie's couch are not quite as many stuffed animals as there are now. Before I would set off on my journey, we wanted to get a lot of things done. That meant a ton of research first, in order to work out a solid plan of how we had to proceed from June onwards. What exactly are the requirements for starting a company and opening a store? What form of business do we choose, and how and where do we register it? What do you need and what does it actually cost, and where does the money come from? At this point, I might add to my original text and emphasize that all of this is happening in Germany, where bureaucracy in its peak form is ruling all aspects of life. Absolutely everything here needs permissions and registrations and has extremely detailed regulations and formalities which have to be observed. Where and how do we have to apply for what exactly? Who can help us with it, and how long does the whole process take? And the most important, what is our precise vision of the whole thing? What exactly do we want to do, and what exactly do we not want to do? A central point from the very beginning was the local community. It should be more than just a store. Nyctophilia should invite people to stay and chat. It should be a daytime goth community space. In order to reach the local community, we wanted to use our own small fame in social media and our knowledge of the local scene. From the beginning, Nyctophilia was a concept from within the community and for the community. The best part of this planning period for me was that it became clear right away that Ellie and I wanted exactly the same thing in terms of the store and really always agreed on everything. Really everything. Nothing has changed in that regard to this day, 2.5 years later, by the way. It's both of our dream, and we just seem to have dreamed the same one. It still always amazes me, but it's completely true. From our concept with the smaller local designers and larger international manufacturers, as well as second-hand clothing and couch area, to the work schedules and opening hours, to the logo design, to the wall and carpet colors, and later again when ordering goods, we have never argued. We had also agreed on the staffing of the Nyctophilia crew. Ellie and I had already worked together and always been a good team. Nana and Ellie had last been a team at their previous employer together and got along great. Björn was also a great fit with experience both in retail and in the subculture, and he also brings crucial accounting experience as well as some life experience in dealing with people. I don't want to say he's old. Those who know him know what I mean. We needed an absolute retail professional on the team, as Ellie and I, despite work experience and Chamber of Commerce exams, still wouldn't necessarily describe ourselves as such, and of course would have plenty of other tasks to do on a day-to-day basis. Fortunately, the perfect candidate was around. We just had to convince him of our great cause. Christian is a trained retail salesman and already had more than 20 years of work experience on the profession at that point. Nothing could faze him in customer service, we thought. He is ideal for our team. In September 2018, at the Assemblage 23 concert at Indra in Hamburg, I talked to him about it seriously for the first time over a few beers. But it would be a little while before he wanted to commit. One of many lucky coincidences of the universe came to our rescue in this case, because Christian's long-term employer, a large electronics store, was actually going to close its branch exactly at the end of May 2019. Such timing. This certainly made the decision much easier for him. And after a few sober conversations in daylight, we were finally able to recruit him too. During this time, in winter 2018, we also thought about our name and slogan and already secured the website domain as well as Instagram and Facebook profiles. All was top secret at the time, of course. Finding such a name took us some time. We thought it should be meaningful, unique, and easily recognizable, and of course describe us and our cause. The same goes for the slogan. Name and slogan together had to state clearly what we were about, without coming across as too generic and simple. It had to be elegant, classy, mysterious, and of course as dark as possible. Every time we had an idea, we had to put it through its paces. What are the Google results for this term? Is there already another store or anything else under the same name that we might prefer not to be associated with? Are URL and social media names still available? Is the term unique enough that it can be easily found in search results? Can the word be pronounced well in English and German preferably? and put into a pretty logo. I think maybe because of our background in linguistics and literature. I have to say, Ellie and I both studied almost the same subjects at university, also a kind of funny coincidence. We ended up with Greek words. I honestly don't remember exactly. Nyctophilia was born. A term that embodies our concept and ideas. We are here for those who are most comfortable in darkness. Sure, the term Gothic store makes it easier to find within the scene, but that's more of a means to an end for us. Whether you call yourself goth or not is not important, even though everything we do here has aspects of our scene in it. Of course, it's about dark elegance, about immersion into the world of the night, but also about the community of those who can identify with the term Nyctophilia, and a distinction from the world of day, beings that move in the sunlight, if you want to give our definition some pathos. So January up to and including VGT, so May, June 2019, Marius and I were traveling the world, and I could contribute very little to the project from afar. Ellie and Nana continued to work in the other shop until the end of May, and Ellie was studying for her upcoming exams so that she could present herself as trained professional to all authorities, and especially to the bank that was supposed to lend us the money. Björn was busy juggling numbers and working on our business plan. By the way, he is also a trained retail salesman as well as business economist, and thus the most suitable in the group to deal with the numbers and calculations. Back in the winter of 2018, we had been at a kind of workshop event for founders at the Chamber of Commerce in Hamburg, in which we had already learned a lot about business forms and the process of becoming self-employed. It all really started after the VGT in 2019. Ellie and I were now unemployed, and all of my money was used up traveling, so I lived off of unemployment benefits for a short time until the business founding in September. Believe it or not, what we did that summer was more than a full-time job without pay, so I really did not have any time or energy to work another job. Ellie, fortunately, had been able to save a little money for this transitional period, since she was not, like me, on the road for half a year. There is a German play on words for the term self-employed, selbstständig, selbst und ständig, which basically means that when you're self-employed, you're working yourself and all the time. Hundreds of hours of work before it was even certain that we would pull it off. Very exciting. So the first thing you do is you create a business plan. Fortunately, a friendly advisor from the Chamber of Commerce explained to us exactly how that works and what we had to include in it. She accompanied us throughout the entire startup process and was always there for us if we had any questions. Shout out to the nice lady at this point. The Chamber of Commerce also approves the business plan when it's ready, so that you can then show it to a bank from which you hope to get a business loan. In our case, the banks then still wanted different pieces of paper and figures and tables, so that the preparation of the business plan alone was a huge time and nerve drain. We also learned that we had to have a life insurance, so that in case one of us dies and can't work anymore, the bank would still get their money back. Very reassuring. It also is a bit complicated that some decisions and processes overlap. In the business plan, for example, fixed rental and ancillary costs are calculated. So you first need the store space and a fixed rental agreement. On the other hand, the landlord wants to see the business license first and the security from the bank before a lease can be signed. We often had to run from lawyer to notary to property viewing to Chamber of Commerce to bank and back again in a short period of time to get the necessary paperwork together and satisfy all parties. In the summer of 2019, Ellie and I were at different business meetings virtually every day and back at home office again and again to revise spreadsheets or change something in the business plan. The shop space that we got in the end at Landwehr 5, the address where we are at now, was actually the first one we had viewed and applied for. The size seemed perfect, 165 square meters store space, a 10-meter long shop window, and 65 square meters side rooms. It's the ideal location with direct access to several lines of public transport. We didn't want to go into a shopping center or main street. Adapting to our surroundings was out of the question. However, we heard nothing from the landlord for a long time after the first inquiry, so of course we looked around further and also visited other stores that would have come into question. My personal other two favorites were one in an old pharmacy at the S-Bahn-Holzenstraße and the other relatively small but well-equipped store directly in the local red light district. But both applications failed due to various factors, and fortunately, it must be said, When we then heard back from the location that has now become our home. Our landlord was immediately convinced of our cause and very interested in renting us the space. At this point, I can also add how amazed I was that we encountered so little resistance all the time. I don't mean the bureaucratic kind. We did have a lot of hurdles to overcome. I mean that Ellie and I, the way that we look, too young, we were 29 and 30 at the time, alternative women, without rich parents or rock star fame, were taken seriously and treated kindly by all the young and old white men and women in suits and costumes. From my own life experience, I can say that this is unfortunately not a given. Of course, we showed up for every appointment exactly the way we walk around every day. Colorful hair, dreadlocks, dark makeup, fishnet tights, platform boots, studs, pentagrams, piercings and tattoos. And it was a very hot summer, so you could see all the tattoos, really. We didn't pretend or borrow clothes from mom to get a loan at the bank or to impress the landlord. And maybe that's what convinced everyone, considering the theme of our shop. It probably seemed quite authentic to the suits as well. By the way, we wrote the business plan in white letters on black background and decorated it with large pictures of us and our friends in fancy festival clothes, so much that the bank person did not want to print it out. I'm assuming to save cartridges or something. So we had rented a store space and at the same time registered the business, got the approval for the loan and had our employment contracts for Björn, Nana and Christian finalized and approved by a lawyer. As of September 2nd, we were now officially self-employed, which meant for me that I would no longer receive unemployment benefits, and we now had to see to it that we got the store up and running quickly in order to earn money. We were able to move into the space starting Friday, September 13th, universe, destiny, numbers, dates, and start renovating. Since we wanted to keep the costs for the renovation as low as possible, and also we had very specific ideas and wishes for the place, we wanted to do everything ourselves. That is, our employees and several other dear friends helped a ton to get everything done. We then looked at how many square meters we had on the walls, what kind of clothes rails to set up, where to get professional clothes rails and mannequins, a counter and glass display cases. We also needed 2 sofas for our seating area, a small table, and originally we had planned to install a fridge, which we then didn't. The selfie wall, including softboxes on the ceiling, also had to be well planned. We needed regular hangers and hangers for trousers, but how many? How many would fit in the store, and then how many clothes can or should we order to fill the shop? The worst task in the renovation process was certainly to sand and paint the metal scaffolding for the suspended ceiling, because unfortunately it was golden with yellow LED lights glued to it before. We couldn't have that. In addition, wallpapering and painting had to be done. The floor was later covered by our beautiful carpet. All furniture, curtain rods and shelves had to be set up. Technology and lighting had to be installed. The changing rooms had to be built from scratch. Yes, we built them ourselves. In the 2 toilet rooms, we covered all the white tiles with black foil, which was also not exactly done in 5 minutes. Between mid-September and the end of October, we went to the hardware store almost every day. Something was always missing. To IKEA, to Staples, or to the recycling center. In the almost 6 weeks, we also had to register water, electricity, and internet, of course, just like you would do in an apartment. We also had to set up a cash register and install a merchandise management system and fill it with the merchandise. We had to order the goods beforehand, and they had to arrive in time for the planned opening date. For this purpose, we had compiled lists of possible dealers well in advance in order to be able to cover our desired assortment. Most dealers you have to register because many are picky in which store their goods may be sold. So it's not immediately clear that you can sell everything you had in mind. In addition, there are different regulations for different groups of goods in terms of tax rates and deliveries, so we spent ages trying to figure out what we actually wanted to sell and what we then could sell and where we would ship to. Unfortunately, it's actually a bit complicated for a small company to offer shipping outside of the EU if you don't want to afford an expensive tool or an external service provider for that. We also had a nice meeting with the lady from DHL a bit later when we were heading towards the opening of the online store to be able to print shipping labels and have our packages picked up daily. Oh yes, boxes and other shipping materials, preferably organic and environmentally friendly, also had to be researched and organized. We had a professional data protection training. Further work was done on the website, the online store, and the social media presence. My marketing tasks also included organizing a logo graphic and everything related to it. Through my previous employment at the agency, I fortunately knew a graphic designer who was kind enough to work with us for a very low rate. Thank you, Annemarie. From this, of course, the large window stickers are small stickers, flyers, coupons, stamps, price tags, stamp cards, and most recently our merch like the tote bags, t-shirts, hoodies, beanies, and patches were created. For a long time, we have also had to deal with the garbage question because there's a bit more packaging waste in a store than at the average home. Unfortunately, this was a difficult matter, and until today, we bring our cardboard waste to public containers down the street because we are not allowed to put our waste bins anywhere. Germans, I swear. Once again, a huge thank you to everyone who helped us build our dream. It was a wonderful team effort with so many people volunteering their ideas and most importantly their muscle. It's unbelievable. We love you all forever and ever. To be in a circle of friends that consists of so many experts from all the different fields, it is once again as if the universe deliberately put everything together in such a way that we had an expert at hand for almost every question. So now the opening date was approaching. While we were trying to get everything ready in time, the original plan was to open on October 19th, but then we had to push that back a week. I think the main reason was that we didn't manage to have the actual goods on site in time. With the business registration at the tax office, you get a tax number, with which you can then order goods from abroad. Without it, you just can't. But as offices in Germany are, it took half an eternity to finally get that number. In the meantime, we had already ordered goods from our German suppliers and the local designers, but without clothes from the UK and shoes from the US, it still seemed quite empty. The Demonia boots delivery arrived super late, right on the day after our VIP rehearsal pre-opening on October 24th. Just in time for the opening. So luckily that worked out. The cash register was already tried out before the opening. At the first regular sale, I sold Ellie a piece from our second-hand corner and falsely gave her employee discount, although we cannot give discounts on the second-hand items. Oh well, if things go wrong at the rehearsal, the show will be perfect, we say in Germany. The last things we had to check were that the fire safety regulations are observed, that a first aid kit is in place, escape routes are marked, and the alarm system and video surveillance are working. We also had some thoughts about the opening day itself. Unfortunately, it became clear pretty quickly that we would only open the physical shop for the time being and that the online shop would be added a little bit later. We managed about 2 months after the opening. It was just another thing that was more complicated than we had thought. I had already started advertising for the shop and for our opening day sometime before via social media. With our very low budget, this was the cheapest and yet most effective solution, since Nana, Ellie and I had already had a following in more or less exactly our target group. There were no paid ads, no billboards, no radio commercials, and at the beginning not even Google ads, because we just couldn't afford any of it. But an opening party also needs to be planned, even though we had more of a soft opening, which means that we simply opened for the first time on Saturday, October 26th, during the regular opening hours from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. All guests and customers could drop by during the day, browse, meet people, chat, shop, and celebrate with us. It was finally done. But done is, of course, not true. It was all still a long way until everything worked out as we had imagined in the end. and as it does today, almost 2.5 years after the opening day. Nevertheless, it was one of the best days of my life, seeing it all come together. We were so relieved that we had made the deadline and everything worked out, especially that so many people came by and showered us with compliments and gifts, which was super sweet. We had not experienced so much love because, well, we didn't really expect anything. But apparently the word got around and people immediately accepted the place as a community spot, a place to shop but also to meet people and hang around. We could hardly have been any happier. Then, 4 months later, COVID happened and we went into lockdown. But that's a different story. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you liked this. Please subscribe to our channel, follow me and our shop on Instagram, and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.